Is the funeral over? Hurry back home, Lori's urgent voice pierced through the somber air of the cemetery. Today marked Alyssa's birthday party, a day of celebration juxtaposed against the recent loss of Shell, my beloved daughter who departed this world at the tender age of 5. My mother-in-law's call came as a stark reminder of life's relentless march forward, even in the face of heart-wrenching grief. She hadn't attended her own granddaughter's funeral. Instead, her focus was on Alyssa's birthday festivities. The request bewildered me, stirring a mixture of anger and sorrow within. I couldn't help but wonder if grief had clouded Lori's judgment. How could she expect me to simply transition from bidding farewell to my precious Shell to attending a birthday party? The raw emotion spurred me to action, prompting a phone call that would hopefully provide some solace. My name is Rel, a 33-year-old housewife. My husband Milo, just 2 years my senior, and I were introduced through mutual friends 6 years ago. Our union blessed us with a daughter, Shelley, who brought immeasurable joy into our lives. But fate dealt her a cruel hand. Shelley's health began to decline 2 years ago. Initially, it seemed like a series of minor illnesses, fevers, colds, but then came the swelling in her neck. Concerned, we sought medical help, only to be met with ominous words. You need to get tested at a larger hospital immediately. That's what the doctor told me, I whispered, the words heavy with disbelief as they echoed in the sterile hospital room. After enduring a battery of tests at the general hospital and an agonizing wait, the diagnosis was delivered like a crushing blow. Malignant lymphoma, a cruel manifestation of childhood cancer. My world plunged into darkness as I pleaded desperately with the doctor, clinging to the hope that it was all a horrible mistake. This can't be true, can it? I implored, my voice choked with tears. Despite the presence of medical professionals surrounding me, I felt utterly alone as waves of grief washed over me. The need for immediate hospitalization was non-negotiable, and though we rushed home to gather essentials, my tears seemed unending. Milo, my rock in this storm of uncertainty, shed silent tears of his own yet remained steadfast in his encouragement. We have to be strong. Shelley will beat this, he urged, his voice a beacon of unwavering determination. With trembling hands, I signed consent forms for procedures I could scarcely comprehend, my mind reeling from the weight of the decisions before me. The arduous journey of treatment lay ahead, a path fraught with IV trips, blood draws, transfusions, and the brutal onslaught of chemotherapy. In the face of this relentless onslaught, I made the heart-wrenching decision to leave my part-time job behind, dedicating every moment to Shelley's side in the hospital. Milo, though tethered to his own obligations, made every effort to support us, his visits a brief respite from the harsh reality of our circumstances. You need to take care of yourself too, Michelle, he insisted, his concern a reminder of the delicate balance between strength and vulnerability in the face of adversity. As Milo stepped up to handle the hospital visits, I took on the responsibilities at home or stole moments to rest, preserving what little strength I had left. In those initial days within the sterile hospital walls, Shelley's tears were a constant companion, her small frame racked with the unfamiliarity of her surroundings. Yet with time, she acclimated to the rhythm of hospital life, her cries gradually diminishing. The nurses marveled at her resilience, showering her with praise as she endured injections without a single whimper. In those moments, I too found solace in their accolades. Despite the toll chemotherapy exacted on her fragile body, manifesting in the loss of her hair and a pervasive sense of weakness, Shelley remained remarkably stoic, her infectious smile a beacon of hope amidst the darkness. Her love for drawing became a source of joy for us all, her sketches capturing moments of fleeting happiness amid the sterile hospital environment. One day, as Milo and I stood at her bedside, Shelley proudly presented a drawing from her sketchbook, an ode to our family unit. It's beautiful, Shelley, we praised, our hearts swelling with pride at her talent and resilience. Her chatter, a constant stream of energy, infused our weary spirits with renewed strength. However, there were moments of setback. During periods of low white blood cell counts, she was confined to the isolation of a sterile room, her fragile immune system requiring utmost protection. Yet, as her health gradually improved, we were granted the precious gift of a few days at home. I wanted to go to preschool, Shelley declared eagerly upon returning home, her excitement palpable. Witnessing her frolic with friends, her laughter echoing through the halls, filled our hearts with boundless joy. Yet, amidst the moments of respite, reminders of her illness lingered. During a visit from my mother, as Shelley reveled in the comfort of her grandmother's embrace, her radiant energy faltered, replaced by a look of discomfort. "Mom, it smells like home," she remarked, her voice trailing off as a sudden onset of pain gripped her small frame. "Let me check, sweetheart. Oh, you're running a slight fever. Wait here. I'll make some soup," I instructed Shelley gently, tucking her into bed before hastily attending to the remaining chores around the house. The comforting aroma of simmering soup filled the kitchen as I busied myself, striving to maintain some semblance of normalcy amidst the chaos of our lives. Just as I was settling into the rhythm of my tasks, the doorbell shattered the tranquility of the moment. Peering at the monitor, my heart sank at the sight of Lori's figure on the doorstep. A pang of regret surged within me for not simply ignoring the intrusion. "Lori, what brings you here?" I managed to muster a polite greeting, though inwardly, I braced myself for the inevitable confrontation. "Do I need a reason to visit my son's house?" Her retort carried a sharp edge, but I bit back the urge to respond with a sharp retort that danced on the tip of my tongue. Instead, I maintained a stoic silence, unwilling to engage in the futile exchange of barbs. In any other circumstance, a visit from a caring mother-in-law might have been a welcome gesture. However, Lori was anything but kind. From the outset of our marriage, she had made it her mission to belittle and berate me at every turn. Whether it was my lack of higher education or superficial critiques about my appearance, her words cut deep, leaving scars that lingered long after she had departed. During the brief respite provided by my father-in-law's presence, Lori's tirades were somewhat tempered, but with his passing, her attacks escalated, leaving me to weather the storm alone. From petty acts of sabotage to relentless comparisons with her beloved daughter, Eliza, Lori's hostility knew no bounds. "Eliza has a son, Jace, in second grade," she would often boast, the disparity in her treatment of our children a stark reminder of her favoritism. As we gathered for holiday celebrations, the contrast in Lori's demeanor towards Jace and Shelley was glaringly evident, further fueling the resentment that simmered beneath the surface. Despite being her own granddaughter, it seemed that Lori couldn't muster an ounce of affection for Shelley, all because of her disdain for me, her daughter-in-law. As I stirred the soup, lost in my thoughts, Lori barged in uninvited from next door with an air of self-importance. "Shelley has a fever," she announced abruptly, her intrusion disrupting the peace of the moment. I couldn't help but silently wish she would just leave if she had nothing constructive to contribute. Yet her unwelcome presence lingered, casting a shadow over the already tense atmosphere. "She's quite frail, isn't she? I wonder where she gets it from. Certainly not our family. Your father had cancer, didn't he?" Lori's words, laced with thinly veiled contempt, cut through the air like a knife. I bristled at the implication, my patience wearing thin. "Yes, Lori. I've explained this to you numerous times. Shelley's illness isn't hereditary," I responded tersely, my frustration bubbling to the surface. My father's battle with cancer during my high school years was a painful memory, but malignant lymphoma, Shelley's diagnosis, wasn't genetically linked, except in specific virus-related instances. Exasperated, I couldn't help but wonder if Lori's repeated ignorance stemmed from senility or simply a stubborn refusal to acknowledge the truth. With a dismissive glance in Shelley's direction, she hurled her venomous remarks before finally taking her leave, leaving a bitter taste in her wake. As the door closed behind her, I turned my attention to Shelley, her innocent face marred by the lingering toxicity of Lori's presence. With a heavy heart, I muttered a few sarcastic comments of my own before retreating from the room. What was the purpose of her visit? I wondered bitterly. Just boredom, perhaps. For a year, Shelley's life was a delicate balance between the confines of the clean room and fleeting moments of respite at home. As the months passed and her blood counts gradually improved, we dared to hope that the worst was behind us. Finally, after a year and a half of relentless treatment, Shelley completed her regimen, and we rejoiced at the prospect of bringing her home for good. With her health on the upswing, Shelley eagerly returned to preschool, her infectious energy lighting up every room she entered. We celebrated this newfound freedom with a family trip to the aquarium, marveling at her boundless enthusiasm as she explored the wonders of the underwater world. Despite the challenges we had faced, I held on to the belief that Shelley would overcome it all. But as she turned 5, our worst nightmares materialized: a relapse. The ensuing months were a blur of agonizing treatments, spinal injections, radiation therapy, and relentless battles against pneumonia and high fevers. Desperate to spare her from further suffering, I underwent a bone marrow transplant, clinging to the hope that it would be enough to save her. But fate had other plans. Despite my best efforts, my body's betrayal dashed any hope of a reprieve for Shelley. With heavy hearts, we faced the grim reality of the doctor's prognosis. There was nothing more to be done. Further treatment would only prolong her suffering. It was a devastating verdict, a stark reminder of the limited time we had left. In the face of such adversity, we made a solemn decision to bring Shelley home, determined to fill her remaining days with love and laughter. Every moment became precious as we embarked on a journey to fulfill her every wish. From preschool sports days to playful outings, we savored each fleeting moment, cherishing the radiant joy that Shelley brought to everyone she encountered. And amidst it all, my mother's unwavering presence provided a source of comfort and solace, a reminder that we were not alone in our grief. I had made a vow to myself never to shed tears in front of Shelley, but sometimes the weight of our reality proved too heavy to bear, and despite my efforts, tears would slip past my resolve. "Mom, what's wrong? Are you feeling unwell?" Shelley's concern for me, even in the midst of her own suffering, never failed to touch my heart. I clung to the hope that this period of happiness would stretch into eternity, praying fervently for a miracle to intervene and spare us from the inevitable. Yet, despite our prayers, the answer remained elusive. Despite her outward appearance of health, the truth lay in the worsening results of her blood tests, a relentless reminder of the cruel reality we faced. As Shelley's condition continued to deteriorate, her once lively spirit confined to the prison of her own frailty, I found solace in the belief that her 6th birthday was within reach, a beacon of hope in the darkness that threatened to consume us. But fate had other plans. Like sand slipping through our fingers, Shelley's grasp on life grew increasingly tenuous, her strength waning with each passing day. As her breaths grew labored and her struggle became more pronounced, the doctor's somber words hung heavy in the air, a harbinger of the inevitable. "Prepare yourselves," they cautioned, their words a cruel echo of the anguish that reverberated within my own heart. In that moment of devastating clarity, I found myself unable to hold back the flood of tears that threatened to consume me. In a haze of grief and disbelief, I turned to Shelley, my voice trembling as I struggled to find the words to convey the unbearable truth that lay before us. "I love you, and Shelley, I love you too." Shelley's words, though labored, carried a weight of love that transcended her weakened state. As the early hours of dawn approached, the urgency of the situation intensified, and the doctor's frantic efforts to revive her filled the room with a sense of desperation. Shelley, in her final moments, clung to consciousness, her voice a fragile whisper echoing the depths of her heart. With every ounce of strength she could muster, she uttered her last words, a testament to the unwavering bond that united our family in love. Milo and I, our hearts heavy with sorrow, cradled her fragile form in our arms, willing her to find peace in the embrace of sleep one final time. But despite her valiant struggle, Shelley slipped away from us, leaving behind an unfillable void in our lives. "Shelley, please, wake up," I pleaded, my voice choked with grief, as her hand grew cold in mine, a silent testament to the cruel reality of our loss. Yet even in the midst of our anguish, the world continued to turn, and the relentless tide of funeral arrangements and preparations pulled me away from the luxury of mourning. As we navigated the somber halls of the funeral home, my heart heavy with sorrow, Lori's callous disregard for the gravity of the moment pierced through the haze of my grief. "You're not coming," I retorted, my patience worn thin by her callous indifference. But her response, laden with self-righteousness, only fueled my anger further. Struggling to contain my rising frustration, I rejected her hollow demands and, in a moment of clarity, severed ties with her toxic presence. With Lori's number blocked and my resolve strengthened, I reached out to someone who offered solace amidst the storm of emotions threatening to engulf me. The somber atmosphere of Shelley's funeral was a testament to the impact she had on the lives of those around her. Doctors who had fought tirelessly for her, friends from preschool, and our own loved ones all gathered to bid her a final farewell. Tears flowed freely as memories of Shelley filled the air, a poignant reminder of the love she had inspired in so many. In a gesture of love and remembrance, Shelley's coffin was adorned with her favorite sunflowers, a vibrant tribute to her spirit. Her friends, with hearts heavy with grief, placed heartfelt letters inside, a testament to the profound impact she had on their lives. Through it all, Milo stood as a pillar of strength, his quiet dignity a beacon of resilience for our grieving family. Hours later, as Milo and I stood before his parents' house, the weight of our loss hung heavy in the air. Lori's desperate plea for help fell on deaf ears as we entered, her presence a stark reminder of the rift that had torn our family apart. In the living room, Eliza and her family, along with a few relatives, awaited us, their expressions a mix of sorrow and disbelief. "I'm so sorry, Rel. We had no idea today was Shell's funeral." Alyssa's words carried a sincerity that touched my heart, a stark contrast to the callous indifference of Lori's actions. In the aftermath of the funeral, I had reached out to Eliza, seeking solace in the bond we shared. Despite the strains of Lori's toxicity, Eliza had always been a source of comfort and support. Her genuine concern for Shelley a testament to the depth of our relationship. As sisters in all but blood, our connection remained unbreakable, even amidst the turmoil that surrounded us. Alyssa's return from abroad had coincided with her birthday, a serendipitous overlap that had tragically coincided with Shelley's funeral. In our haste and grief, we had entrusted Lori with the task of communicating with her side of the family, only to be met with betrayal and negligence. Alyssa's shock at Lori's absence from the funeral served as a sobering reminder of the fractures within our family that had been laid bare by Shelley's untimely passing. Upon our return home, Alyssa reached out to me, only to discover that Shelley's burial had already taken place. Nonetheless, they waited patiently for our arrival, their presence a source of comfort amidst the somber atmosphere that permeated our home. Shelley's absence weighed heavily upon us all, her memory a haunting presence in every corner of the room. As we mourned our loss, Lori's callous words cut through the silence like a knife. "You can always have another child," she uttered callously, her lack of empathy sending shockwaves through the room. In a moment of righteous fury, Eliza seized the cake meant for her birthday celebration and hurled it at Lori, her action a visceral expression of her disgust at Lori's heartless demeanor. With steely determination, Eliza led Lori to the shower room, her intentions clear as she doused her with water, washing away the toxicity that tainted her spirit. Amidst the chaos, I weakly explained Lori's motives, her insistence on rushing me back for Eliza's birthday party preparations, a stark reminder of her misplaced priorities. The relatives, appalled by Lori's behavior, voiced their disdain for her callousness. Returning from the shower room, Lori stood before us, her drenched appearance a physical manifestation of the contempt that surrounded her. "But it's Alyssa's birthday party," Lori attempted to justify herself, her feeble excuse met with incredulity and anger. "Your birthday party?" Alyssa's voice dripped with scorn. "How dare you call Rel back for such trivial matters? If Shelley meant so little to you, how could you disregard Milo's grief over her loss? Why didn't you attend your own granddaughter's funeral?" Unable to conjure a valid response, Lori's excuses fell silent, her guilt laid bare for all to see. In a moment of raw honesty, Chase, Alyssa's son, broke the tense silence that enveloped us all. "Grandma, you don't really love your grandchildren, do you?" His soft words reverberated through the room, cutting through the facade of familial unity with a piercing clarity. Lori's feeble attempt to reassure him fell flat, her words betraying the stark truth that lay beneath her carefully crafted facade. "That's not true. I love you, Jate. You're healthy and Alyssa's child," she stammered, her desperation palpable in the face of Jace's innocent inquiry. But her feeble excuse only served to stoke the flames of anger that had long simmered within Milo. "So Shelley, my child, wasn't loved because she was ill, and your daughter-in-law's daughter." His voice trembled with emotion, the weight of his grief finally finding release in a torrent of righteous indignation. The condemnation of Lori's actions came not only from Milo, but from her own family as well. "She's always been crazy," her brother remarked bitterly, recounting past grievances that painted a damning portrait of Lori's character. As the truth of Lori's betrayal came to light, the rift between us widened, the bonds of family strained beyond repair. With heavy hearts, we bid farewell to those who had once been a part of our lives, their departure leaving a void that echoed with the pain of betrayal. "We're leaving," Milo announced, his voice heavy with resignation. "Let's talk again some other time." We exchanged hugs with those who remained, their presence a bittersweet reminder of the ties that had been severed by Lori's actions. But even as we prepared to depart, Lori's voice rang out once more, her words laden with accusation and regret. "Wait, Milo," she pleaded, her desperation evident in the trembling of her voice. "Is that why you didn't care for Shelley, my child?" "It's not like that, Milo, you know." Lori's voice quivered with sadness, her words a feeble attempt to justify her actions. "You didn't study properly, like Eliza. You didn't listen, so you only care about those who do as you want, huh?" Milo's expression remained somber, his disappointment evident in his eyes. As I handed Lori something beside him, a pang of sorrow gripped my heart. It was a drawing of Lori, meticulously crafted by Shelley's tiny hands. In the picture, Lori was depicted with a radiant smile adorning her face. "Despite everything, even though you didn't dote on Shell, she admired you," I spoke softly, the weight of my words heavy with emotion. "I hated you and never saw a smile from you, but maybe Shelley saw you smiling like this." Shell was a pure and kind child. Even during her treatment, she was more concerned about me. Perhaps in her eyes, she saw a kind Lori. Lori's tears flowed freely for the first time, her fingers trembling as she clutched the drawing close to her chest. But amidst the flood of emotions, it was painfully clear that the damage had already been done. "We're also leaving. I won't ever see Mom again." Alyssa's words hung heavy in the air, her resolve unyielding as she turned her back on the woman who had betrayed us all. "Wait, don't leave too." Lori's desperate plea fell on deaf ears as we, united in our grief, departed from the in-laws' house, leaving behind the shattered remnants of what was once a family. In the days that followed, my uncle-in-law's family visited us, their presence a balm to our wounded spirits. Amidst prayers offered over Shelley's photo, they extended their heartfelt apologies for Lori's behavior. Yet, even as Lori appeared remorseful, clutching onto Shelley's drawing with trembling hands, the damage she had wrought could not be undone. Lori had always been troublesome. "It's unlikely she'll change now." My aunt-in-law's words held a note of resignation, a testament to the deep-seated flaws that had long plagued Lori's character. In the wake of this tragic incident, other relatives followed suit, cutting ties with Lori in a collective act of solidarity. Though her loneliness may be self-inflicted, there was little room for sympathy. Her long history of erratic behavior had left scars too deep to heal, and as she faced the consequences of her actions, she would be forced to confront the weight of her regrets alone. In the aftermath of the funeral, as the whirlwind of busy days and necessary procedures subsided, the full weight of Shelley's loss crashed down upon me like a tidal wave. In the depths of my grief, I found myself engulfed by a sense of overwhelming despair, my vision clouded by tears that seemed to never cease. Milo's concern for my well-being grew with each passing day, prompting my mother to stay with us for a while, offering her comfort and support during my darkest hours. Haunted by the relentless question of whether I could have done more to save Shelley, I found myself teetering on the brink of madness, consumed by guilt and regret. But amidst the suffocating darkness that threatened to engulf me, I couldn't bring myself to entertain thoughts of ending my own life. For Shelley had fought with such tenacity until the very end, her spirit refusing to surrender to the cruel hand fate had dealt her. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, a glimmer of hope began to flicker within me once more. Finding solace in the shared experiences of other parents who had suffered similar losses, I sought refuge in the embrace of a support group where tears were shed and stories shared, offering a semblance of comfort in our collective grief. Reconnecting with Eliza and engaging in heartfelt conversations with her served as a source of solace, a reminder that I was not alone in my pain. And then, amidst the darkness, a beacon of light emerged in the form of a furry companion. Milo and I welcomed the puppy into our home, its boundless energy and unwavering affection serving as a gentle reminder of the love and joy that Shelley had brought into our lives. In the wag of its tail and the sparkle in its eyes, I saw echoes of our bright child, Shelley, her spirit living on in the playful antics of our new furry friend. Do you draw in heaven, chatter endlessly, and smile with that infectious joy of yours? I whispered into the ether, my words a silent prayer carried on the wings of hope. Someday we'll be together again, but until then, wait for me. And if by some miracle our paths cross once more, I long to see your radiant smile lighting up the heavens above. As Shelley's mother, I made a solemn vow to honor her memory by living a life filled with purpose and meaning, a life that she would be proud of. And though the pain of her absence may never fully subside, I found solace in the knowledge that her spirit would forever guide me on this journey called life.
Your valley is so huge you don't turn me on anymore. Raise the kids yourself. Looking at my pregnant belly, James made a shocking remark, giving an unreasonable reason for divorce. I felt abandoned, as if left on the streets. However, a miracle happened to me. Fine, here are the divorce papers. I had a good reason to accept the divorce. 3 months later, I received frantic calls from him. My name is Catherine, just an ordinary office worker. My life had never been extraordinary. Now, it feels like I am at a peak. Catherine, will you support me? I married James, my boss, who worked in sales at a major general trading company. We began dating when I was 27. At first, I just saw him as a reliable senior at work and didn't pay him any special attention. But after attending a drinking party with him, I quickly realized he was dependable. He was considerate and respected by others, passionate about his work, and I was amazed by his sales techniques. Although I could be considerate, I was very bad at expressing my opinions. It took me several years to be able to speak my mind. James passionately coached me, and I naturally became attracted to his enthusiasm. Perhaps he noticed my feelings because he started to approach me more frequently. Right after he was promoted to section chief, we began our relationship. A year into our relationship, he proposed to me. Today, we finally made it to the finish line. Honestly, I felt elated, as if I was ascending to heaven. This was probably the first time I felt so overjoyed. Having had no romantic experiences, let alone serious relationships with men, I thought falling in love with James was pure destiny. That is, until things took a turn for the worse. A year after marrying James, I was carrying a new life inside me. I left the hospital excited, wondering how James would react. But when I told him about the pregnancy, his response was devastatingly unexpected. "You're pregnant." He showed utter inconvenience, perfectly mirroring his words. "Didn't you marry me to support my life? Weren't you on birth control pills?" I was shocked. As we were building our life after marriage, I had always wanted children. I thought James would be just as happy, but the reality was the exact opposite. James never wanted kids. He saw me as a housemate. I realized this during our discussion about my pregnancy. "Birth control? You never mentioned anything about birth control." His words were too cruel. I couldn't help but become emotional and snapped back. At that moment, a heavy sigh escaped from James' lips. "You just don't get it. You were trash, you used to work for me, and can't even assume that doing what's not being taught is basic. Is your brain too hollow to understand that?" Saying this, he tapped my head with his index finger. The force and emphasis of his words made me feel his frustration and disgust. I was supposed to be happy about this news. Why did he even marry me? As I thought this, he revealed another shocking truth. I thought you could at least handle the household chores when I married you. I might consider getting a divorce. His words, which felt almost like a threat, depleted my heart. Overwhelmed by sadness and unable to speak, James, with a smirk, added, "Before I married you, I was actually thinking of hiring a maid. I really hate doing household chores, but you liked me, didn't you? You never went against my opinions, and I heard you were good at household tasks. I thought it would be a win-win situation for both of us. It seems like you fooled me." His unbelievable words made me sadder than angry. Fearful of showing my tears, I bit my lip, trying to distract myself with the pain. "I never wanted a child with you. Who asked for you to get pregnant? You should have taken birth control as you were told. That's on you." My heart was filled with regret for marrying him. Of course, he later demanded that I get an abortion, but I firmly refused that request. Until I could find a way to support myself, I had no choice but to do as he said. I begged him, pressing my head to the ground, pleading for the sake of the child. As a result, I remained by his side, but only as a housemate. I was his wife in name only. In exchange for not being involved as a couple, I was allowed to give birth to the child. "I'll provide money, but I won't take care of the kid at all. You're on your own with that." His words, as if he was pushing the responsibility of a pet onto me, pierced through my heart. I had quit my job when I married him because of his requests. If I returned to my previous job, I would have to see James every day after our divorce, and I absolutely couldn't stand that. Until I found a new job and secured a stable income, I had to endure this life. With those thoughts, I felt despair every day. "If you take care of the house properly, I'll work outside. All you need to do is be thorough with the household chores." I was aware that he was bad at household chores even when we were dating. I naively thought he was relying on me. Perhaps this was one of the reasons he wanted to marry me. No matter how much emotional abuse I endured from him, I couldn't escape him, especially now that we had a child. Leaving him, who had an above-average income, would mean plunging into poverty. Which is better, to have a child live in poverty or live in a house with no love? When faced with this harsh binary choice, another tragedy befell me. It was the news of my parents' death. After getting married, I could only see my parents about once a year. The only time I was allowed to return home was during the 3 days he was away on a business trip. "If you leave the house, what am I supposed to eat?" I couldn't just leave him food. He said such self-centered things. Hence, those rare trips home were the few pleasures in my life, a reward for my daily hard work. I was planning to report about my child as the only filial duty I could offer, but even that was taken away from me. I felt like I had hit rock bottom in my life. A while later, I received an email. I didn't recognize the sender, and feeling a bit uneasy, I opened it to find its shocking content. "If you read this letter, please contact me anytime." Along with the message was the sender's phone number and a photo. Seeing that picture made me believe the content of the letter was true. I immediately called the number written in the letter while crying. I explained everything and decided to meet them. "You want to see your relatives with your status as a housemate. How can you be so selfish? What about my meals during that time? Please, I need to deal with my parents' affairs and go through the procedures. I haven't even properly informed them about our child. They are asking to see me just this once. I don't have money to fund your outings. If you go, pay with your own money." I was constantly bombarded with cold, hurtful words. However, they no longer had the power to hurt me. My heart had become so numb that I could simply ignore his words. But for some reason, James, who was usually so harsh, suddenly brightened up as if he had an idea. "Wait a second. I just remembered I have a business trip. You can go home for about 3 days, just come back before I return." That was unusual. It was unlike James to give me such freedom, but the reason for this sudden leniency would become clear later on. Having received James' permission, I returned to my hometown and met the sender of the letter. It was my maternal grandparents on my mother's side. My grandfather was American and my grandmother was Japanese. My mother spent her early years in America, but with an interest in Japanese culture, she came to Japan to study during her college years. That's where she met my father and got married. However, their marriage was not easily accepted. My grandparents strongly wished for her to stay in America and were against the marriage. The two eloped and couldn't even come to Japan until they heard the sad news of the passing of both. To be honest, we had forgiven them a long time ago, but we didn't know how to face them. I really regret being such a stubborn fool. If I had known this would happen, I would have welcomed their marriage. Upon hearing of their death from an acquaintance, the two were filled with sorrow and seemed to regret their actions. They blamed themselves for their passing. While I was lost in these thoughts, it seemed that the same acquaintance told them about me, their grandchild. They were worried about how I was doing and had also heard that I was pregnant. It might be hard for you to accept us considering what we did to your parents, but please understand we are always on your side. If you ever need anything, don't hesitate to ask. I promise to protect you no matter what. If things get tough, don't ever think you're alone, okay? You can always depend on us. Without hesitation, tears welled up in my eyes as my grandmother, Eleanor, softly held my hand. Her warmth was comforting. After struggling for so long to protect the child in my belly, their warmth revived the numb feeling in my heart. Seeing me sob like this, my grandparents were both surprised and gentle, inquiring with concern about what had happened. When they learned of my current situation, they were furious and entrusted me with something. You don't have to endure such a life anymore. We will help you. Please let us. All you need to think about is yourself and the baby. Don't worry about finances. Take care of yourself. Encouraged by their supportive words, I decided to get a divorce. I had to exact revenge on my husband. However, before I could act, it was James who made the first move. As soon as I returned to our house, an enraged James confronted me with a letter from my grandparents. What is this letter? You went through my desk without permission. It's my house. I can do whatever I want. Even if it's your own house, there's something called privacy. What's with you today? You seem different talking back to me like that. I truly believed his ability to detect even the slightest change in me was remarkable. However, even if he read the letter, it wasn't a big deal. The letter only mentioned the existence of my grandparents and there wasn't any particular issue with it. Yet James used that letter as a reason to suggest divorce. I bet you lied about meeting this old geezer and old lady in the letter. You went back to your hometown to date some guy, didn't you? What? Don't think you can fool me with such an obvious lie. I know you've been using the internet or some trick to have fun behind my back. You're a cheater. Wait a minute, how did you come to that conclusion? You know best that I don't have time for such things, don't you? I couldn't comprehend his absurd insinuations. My stomach hurt and I had a headache. It was just too much. You've never done anything like that before. Do you think you can deceive me with such an obvious lie? Don't underestimate me. He wasn't listening at all. I felt a sense of discomfort towards James, who was trying to trap me with such an excessively forced excuse. I'm disappointed in you. Not that I had much expectation to begin with. So what? Normally, at this point, one would present evidence of their innocence, proving that what James was saying was absurd. However, as I was contemplating divorce, I thought differently. I deliberately let James continue, wanting him to utter the next words. Let's get a divorce. Our marriage was basically out of mutual interest anyway. You've grown fat and unattractive. Raise the kid yourself. I don't want anything to do with you anymore. He got exactly what he wanted. I pulled out the divorce papers he had left and presented them to James. Great, here are the divorce papers. Sign them and I'll take them tomorrow before you change your mind. Why do you have this? I'm your housekeeper. Cleaning the house and finding something like this is a piece of cake. That's a lie. The truth is I had noticed the divorce papers he left on his desk as a threat a long time ago. He slyly conveyed that he could dispose of me anytime, making sure I lived in fear of him so I wouldn't retaliate. I lived every day in fear of that single piece of paper. You're quite confident all of a sudden. Can you, with zero life skills, really survive without me? Don't underestimate me. I won't rely on someone like you anymore. I will protect my child with my own strength. In reality, it was a gamble. I was anxious inside, wondering what would happen if James suspected my sudden boldness. However, I had a hunch about why James proposed the divorce at this time. Therefore, I knew that he would not retract his divorce proposal and that this situation was also favorable for him. Oh really? Then raise that kid on your own. Since we're divorcing on mutual terms, I won't have any involvement with you or the child. That kid isn't mine, and you don't ever come in contact with me. Promise? Fine, this is goodbye. Thus, when I was about 9 months pregnant, our marriage ended. I divorced James. With some savings from when I was single, I could quickly pack my belongings and leave this house. As planned, I headed to my grandparents' place and settled some matters there. Later, I gave birth to a healthy baby boy. I named him with hopes for his strong and resilient growth. My son grew up so fast, and my grandparents and I enjoyed watching him grow, living fulfilling days. 3 months later, I received a call from an unknown number. As I picked up the call, my expression turned sour. What the hell is going on? Explain. His shaking voice was so high-pitched I almost wanted to retort. Initially, I thought it was a woman calling me. I instinctively pulled the receiver away from my ear. The discomfort grew just hearing that voice, a chill going inside my head. I wanted to end the call immediately, yet as I continued to listen, he rattled on. You established a company. I never heard of this. Where in our marriage did you stash away that kind of money? That money is mine. Return it right now, you deceitful woman. Obviously, the voice belonged to James, who had somehow learned about my new company. Do you think someone's using your money? He started berating me, hurling accusations at me like a debt collector. I let out a sigh of disbelief at James' accusations, but I replied with utter calm. On what basis are you calling this a scam? There's no evidence that I stole your money. Shut up, you conniving. You probably took extra living expenses from me and secretly saved it. Even if that were true, there's no way I could have saved enough to start a company. The living expenses you gave me barely covered a month's worth. Don't be ridiculous. Then how did you get so much money? There's no job that would have given you such an income when you were unemployed and living with me. You just didn't know I had assets worth $1.1 million right before our divorce. What? $1.1 million. James's voice rose in surprise, stunned by the revelation. He choked on his words. How did you get that much money? The elderly couple I talked about are my maternal grandparents. They are the chairpersons of a globally renowned computer software company. Before divorcing you, I met them and received a bank book they had been saving for me. They always set money aside for their future granddaughter. What? He must have been completely taken aback. It was easy to imagine him being utterly astonished. Right after the divorce, I immediately proceeded with changing the account's name. My grandparents, who live in a distant country, have limited time when they come to my country. There was a need to hurry for smooth processing. Thankfully, the name change was completed the day they arrived in Japan, and I was able to access the money. My mom told me that my grandparents passed away when I was little. I didn't know that they had been estranged. When they found out about my situation, they decided to support me. They promised to take care of me. Upon learning the truth behind our divorce, James was furious. He started spouting words that made him seem hypocritical, given that he was the one who had rashly decided on the divorce. If I had known that, I wouldn't have divorced you. You have some nerve. You never tried to understand my situation. That's because you're terrible at explaining things. Is that why you're constantly fighting with your new wife, trying to shift the blame as always? How? How do you know that? Probably not expecting that I knew about his personal matters, James seemed lost for words. His frantic reaction was rather amusing. I wouldn't notice. It's obvious. We worked together. I didn't need to dig for information. The secret came to me. But don't worry, I'm genuinely relieved that you are marrying the boss's daughter. There's no chance of us getting back together, and I don't have to deal with you anymore. You don't have to be so harsh. We used to love each other. We can still reconcile, can't we? What? What are you talking about? I responded coldly, not even trying to comprehend what he meant. He seemed taken aback by the lack of warmth in my words. James remained silent, struggling to find the right words. Who said I want to get back together with you? I felt relieved after our divorce. I have a child now, and my grandparents have been so kind. I finally found my happiness. Let your wife deal with your nonsense. I don't want anything to do with you. Having regained my emotions, I recalled the painful days with James, and the anger I had suppressed exploded towards him. Hearing my words, James flinched, probably realizing that I had lost all affection for him. However, he started offering different terms. Well, can you give me some money then? She's incredibly high maintenance, and I barely have any spending money left. She's demanding, selfish, can't do housework properly, and she goes out almost every night. You have $1 million, right? Can you spare me some? Don't be ridiculous. I don't have a single penny left for you. Stop saying such things for your convenience. James, choked by my statement, let out a surprised exclamation. What? I use all the money to establish my company and buy a new house. I don't have $1.1 million left. I'm sorry for nothing. I had expected James to find out about my situation somehow, and considering his greedy nature, it was predictable that he'd come asking for money. That's why I thought of converting my money into fixed assets. So, I quickly bought a new house, used most of the funds to establish a nursing facility with a nursery, and spent the rest on the house. Thanks to this move, the facility is quite popular. It's loved by mothers in the same situation as me. It's fully equipped and designed to ensure single mothers can live independently. I got advice for the company's website and systems from my grandparents and did a lot of research myself using social media. I thoroughly researched what single parents want in a workplace, what kind of jobs are in demand, and established my own company to fulfill all these needs. I can't believe you're running such a successful business, James stammered. I was always so irritated by your condescending attitude. Now I can tell you, you thought you could do anything and saw me as trash, but you were so wrong. I hope you regret leaving me for the rest of your life. Your regret won't change anything. Wait, Catherine, please give us another chance. I'll do anything you want. Neil, clean your house, anything. You must be joking. I would never get back with you even if it killed me. Live happily with your current wife and please never tell my son you're his father. After that, it seemed like he was shouting something, but I unceremoniously ended the call. I blocked his contact and changed my number. When I told my grandparents about the contact from James, they arranged everything from security cameras at my home, ensuring he couldn't approach me. If you want, we can even get you a bodyguard, they offered, showing an overly protective stance which made me smile with appreciation and a bit of embarrassment. Since then, James has been struggling in his married life with the CEO's daughter. It's said that he's being dominated and drained of his own salary. Every time I hear stories about him from my former colleagues, it feels like whiskey tastes better. Colleagues who heard the story from me began to disdain him, and it became evident to others as well. Eventually, James earned a reputation at work as the unfaithful man. As a result, his standing in the company plummeted. It's said he's continuing his job under much stress and constraint. He is the husband of the CEO's daughter after all. He's probably living the hellish life, unable to resign even if he wants to. Colleagues would joke, and I'd join in the laughter in agreement. Thus, I finally regained a peaceful life. My son, showered with love from his great-grandparents, is growing up healthily. It's almost 10 years since he was born, and I've taught him everything about James without hiding any details. I won't become a man like that. Don't worry, I'll always protect you, Mom, he'd say, making me swoon with his prince-like words every day. I'm pregnant with your husband's child. I was speechless at my sister's sudden confession. So, I want a divorce. I'm going to remarry your husband, she declared. I'm sorry I stole your husband, a doctor earning $10,000 a month, she continued. Next to my sister, my husband was looking down at me with a serious face, and her hand was tightly holding his. I was so shocked that I couldn't speak. What's with that face? As usual, you're ugly. That's why your husband had a change of heart. From now on, you're going to live on your meager salary, my sister said with a loud laugh, making my heart feel cold. I'm the one who wants to say sorry, I thought, as they probably didn't know. I was laughing in my heart without telling them about my sister's terrible misunderstanding. My name is Jessica. I've been married to Brandon for 3 years. I met my husband at a university tennis club. Tennis was my only stress relief in my suffocating university life, which was full of studying. Since the club was a cheerful activity, I often sacrificed my study time to play. You have a nice form, he said. My husband, who was in a different faculty and didn't seem busy studying, always approached me when I visited the club. I played tennis until high school. I quit playing seriously because of an injury, but you're good at it. It's completely different from me, who is just playing for fun, he said. I can teach you. I think we're a great match, he added. I believed his words, which seemed like typical pickup lines from the bottom of my heart. In fact, I had never dated a man before and had hardly even had a proper conversation because I was always studying. I was completely taken in by my husband's positive attitude. I had no idea of the hard times awaiting me 5 years later. After graduating from university, we got married. Although it would be a lie to say we had no fights or breakups during our school years, I always forgave my husband's sloppy behavior, and our relationship dragged on until graduation. I'm sure I'll become a good husband, he said. How much I believed in his proposal, I wonder now, but at that time, I still trusted my husband. There were feelings from our 5-year-old relationship that lingered. He wasn't a bad person at heart, and I accepted his proposal with a rather light feeling. We both started working. I had a strong desire to work, and my husband didn't oppose me going out. Rather, he encouraged me to pursue my career. With the income of two people, we had a substantial household income. Having this much economic freedom at a young age, we were blessed. We didn't have children because it was still early in our careers. We focused on setting up our lives first. I was climbing up the career ladder smoothly and having fulfilling days. One day, I inadvertently picked up my husband's smartphone that he had left in the living room. There was a message from an unknown name. Normally, I tried not to pry into his privacy, but my husband had a history of passive cheating. Back in our student days, he was secretly communicating with a girl from another club. I entered my husband's birthday and easily unlocked his smartphone. I opened the messaging app and was shocked. As I feared, there were flirty exchanges with a particular woman recorded. I immediately confronted my husband. His confused state was like a monkey in the zoo. "It's not like that. This was just a lapse in judgment," he said. "So, you admit cheating? You had a relationship with this woman?" I asked. "Well, he stammered. "Let's make love at our usual hotel. Kisses. You're not young to send such a message." I read aloud. "She is a high school graduate and a newcomer," I added. Summing up my husband's story, he basically cheated with a new female employee. My husband was her trainer. It's a common story, but I wondered what kind of education he was giving her. "I'm really sorry. I swear I won't make such a mistake again," he pleaded. In the end, I forgave my groveling husband. This had been happening since our university days. I couldn't help but sigh at my husband's sloppy attitude. Unlike our student days, we had too many obligations. If we were to divorce, we'd have to report it to our families, friends, and co-workers, which would disappoint them. Honestly, it was easier to give my husband another chance than to deal with such troublesome things. I made him write an apology letter. If he made the same mistake again, he wouldn't get away with it. That was the promise. And so our married life continued, barely surviving several storms. One day, I received a call from my mother with the news of my father's death. According to her, he had collapsed on the way home from drinking and was taken to the hospital. It appeared to be a stroke. His discovery was late and it was the middle of winter, so he unfortunately never came back to life. He was 60 years old, just before retirement. I took care of all the funeral arrangements. My mother cried all the time and wasn't in any condition to manage. With the support of relatives and a hollowed-out mother, I barely managed to complete the funeral proceedings. I felt sorry for the inconvenience to my workplace, but my colleagues and superiors never complained. I'll never forget their support. One issue was dealing with my sister. I have a sister 2 years older than me, named Anna. After graduating from high school, she left our parents' home, so I hadn't seen her for nearly 10 years. Her circumstances were problematic. My sister had always been a troublemaker, causing trouble for our parents. She had been involved with the police more than once or twice. Her relationships with men were particularly unrestrained, and she had been involved with multiple adult men since junior high school, some of whom were married. Because of her behavior, my parents scolded her all the time. "Live a decent life. Don't ruin your own life," they would advise, but it didn't resonate with her at all. Finally, it was discovered that she had secretly given money from our house to a male host, which led to a huge fight with both of our parents, especially our father. "Get out," my father declared, disowning her. It was not surprising that he excluded her from his inheritance. "I don't even think of you as my daughter anymore," my father declared. In response, my sister retorted and stormed out of the house. "Who would want to come back to such a poor and gloomy place?" she shouted as she left. True to her words, my sister never showed her face again until our father passed away. Even though I had to inform her of our father's death, my mom said, "There's no need for that." But I couldn't ignore my sister. Her cell phone number was still the same, so I sent her a short message informing her of our father's passing. There was no contact from my sister until just before the funeral. If she doesn't come, it's fine then, I thought. Just when I was beginning to believe she wouldn't show up, my sister finally arrived at the post-cremation meal. Her face, with makeup 3 times thicker than before, was a stark contrast to her appearance 10 years ago. "Huh, so you got married without updating our late father," she remarked, noticing that I had brought my husband. My husband, who had managed to attend the ceremony during a break from work, had been timid and meek until my sister showed up. He was not the type of person to handle ceremonial situations briskly. "Your husband isn't bad-looking. Did you meet him at work?" my sister inquired. "We met through a club in college. Our workplaces are completely different," I replied. Huh, you cooked a good one. You were always studying, right? Well, if you got a man with a decent education, that's good. You don't seem to be struggling with money. Since one of us is a doctor, the salary is decent. We both work, but more importantly, you should properly greet our father, I said, trying to steer the conversation back to the matter at hand. A doctor? My sister's eyes seemed to plot something, and she may have even licked her lips. My husband, subjected to her snake-like gaze, was simply flustered. We disbanded that day, and my sister, who said she would contact me soon, never did. She didn't contribute any condolence money, and I had no intention of following up on my mother's lament. Things started to get strange about 6 months later. Although the sadness of losing my father had not yet healed, I had almost completely forgotten about the days of the funeral and my sister. But it seemed my sister remembered well about my husband Brandon. After work, I saw a familiar figure near the station. The navy suit was the one I had just cleaned for him yesterday. What surprised me was the sight of the woman next to him. They were holding hands, looking friendly. Again, my husband's bad habits. As the flames of anger flared up, I realized my husband's crime was not just that. This time, I was more taken aback than angry. Next to my husband, flaunting her mini skirt, was my sister Anna, holding his hand. My husband was cheating with my own sister. I blurted it out involuntarily, then decided to follow them. If this is truly an affair, I will not forgive my husband this time. I've been tormented by my husband's womanizing many times, but if it's with my own sister, it's beyond a joke. Moreover, the occasion where they met face to face was at my dad's funeral. I'll definitely catch them in the act. I grit my teeth and focus on not losing sight of them. As expected, they headed towards the hotel district. It was still daytime. My husband was supposed to be at work. I wondered what kind of excuse he used to leave the office. They walked past numerous hotels, glued even closer together. At one of the hotels where they finally stopped, they started kissing. Disgusting. This was the first time I had witnessed my husband's infidelity. Then they went into the hotel in front of them. I called my husband's smartphone after letting the two of them off the hook for a while, holding back my nausea. After an irritating wait, my husband finally picked up the phone. What is it? I'm working. There's something I really need to check with you. Who are you with right now? Who? You know, of course, I'm with my colleagues and boss. We have an important meeting coming up. Oh, so you have important meetings at the Love Hotel Jewelry Resort? Quite a flippant name, isn't it? How do you? I also know that my sister is with you. You're the one who needs to explain. Just wait there with my sister. After I had my ace up my sleeve, Brendan's voice seemed muffled and raspy. Finally, after checking with my sister, he informed me of the room number. All right, I said, bracing myself and storming into the hotel. I explained the situation to the receptionist and paid for another room. After all the humiliation he has put me through, I won't show any mercy to my husband. When I opened the door to room 402, my husband was waiting there with a pale face. He was already dressed in a gown, having taken off his suit. My sister wore the same gown and had a mocking expression on her face. The pitiful wife showed up. She started, smoking and showing no sign of remorse. On the contrary, she seemed to be enjoying the situation, just like half a year ago. Her makeup was heavily plastered like paint. First, I confronted my sister, who was making a creepy face. Anna, what are you thinking? You knew he's my husband and you laid your hands on him, didn't you? Well, it's frustrating. After being kicked out of the house, I've had a really hard time. I was even abandoned by the host I was sponsoring. I didn't have a single thing going well for me. Despite all that, you live a happy married life. You left home because of your selfishness, right? You troubled your parents till the end. And now you will try to ruin my family too. The chaos had been there from the start. I heard from Brandon how pitiful it is because you always say harsh things. He doesn't even have a moment of peace at home. That's why I've been comforting him. Don't say whatever you want. This is a problem within our family. So you're just not satisfying your husband, are you? A boring woman like you. I'm different in that respect. I'm satisfying him. That's why we've been going out for half a year now. You're lying. It's been since right after my father's funeral. Understand me, Jessica. I was at my limit too. You were always nagging me, and there was hardly any marital affection. We haven't even been intimate for over a year now, Brandon said, exposing our marital issues in front of my sister. Embarrassed to the point of tears, I shot back, "The reason we couldn't stay as a couple was because of your womanizing. Have you forgotten your promise that you would never cheat again? And on top of that, how come it's with my sister? Besides, right after my father's funeral." "Hey, stop belittling Brandon. He's not yours anymore, right, Brandon?" My sister interjected, whispering something to him. He lifted his head, which had been lowered, and turned to me with determination. Now I was the one taken aback. "Jessica, please divorce me. We're having a baby." "What?" "You heard it. I'm pregnant now. Of course, the father is Brandon. We've been making love almost every week since then, and this belly is the fruit of that," my sister said, lovingly stroking her belly. I was left speechless. This was no accident but a deliberate act. From the start, my sister intended to steal my husband, and my husband also intended to end our marriage. That's why they didn't use contraception. They went out of their way to show me the baby in her belly. Too bad. You don't stand a chance. He's mine now. He's leaving you and marrying me, right, Brandon? Yeah, let's be happy together. No, the three of us with our baby. I will do my best. You've been dumped. Truly, my condolences. There goes your elegant lifestyle. From now on, that will be mine. My sister laughed. After her laughter echoed, I left the hotel room. To be honest, I don't remember how I made it home. I vomited 3 times in the toilet. As I rushed up my stomach acid, I couldn't stop crying. I was more upset about being betrayed than about losing my husband. My husband and sister trampled on my humanity. Moreover, they made use of the baby. I cried all night and greeted the morning with a drained body. From that day on, my husband did not come home. There was no doubt that he had moved in with my sister. Soon, he would probably come to pack up his things and bring divorce papers, along with the wedding ring we chose together 5 years ago. It was the worst day of my life. Nevertheless, I couldn't afford to take a day off from work. There were people who depended on me. Above all, now only my work was my anchor. Holding back nausea and tears, I gritted my teeth and headed to the workplace. A week later, while I was working as usual, my husband and sister showed up in front of me. I wasn't very surprised, but the two of them seemed quite shocked. My sister, sitting in a chair for patients and holding her belly, stared at me in astonishment as I stood there in my white coat. "Why are you here?" she asked. "Because this is the obstetrics and gynecology department, and I am on duty today. The doctor who usually examines you is off due to some circumstances." "You were a doctor? But why?" "Brandon was supposed to be the doctor," my sister said, looking puzzled as she glanced between my husband and me. I found it funny and explained, "You must have misunderstood, sister. I am the one who is a doctor. I worked hard to get into medical school." "But at the funeral, Brandon said he was a doctor. You got yourself a highly educated husband," she replied. "I only said that if one person is a doctor, the salary will be decent. You misunderstood that." "But Brandon said he was a doctor," she insisted. As my sister's gaze pierced him, my husband, who seemed to have come along as an escort, turned pale and began to stammer clumsy excuses like a fish washed up on the beach. "No, I was actually thinking of talking to you seriously, but then you mentioned getting pregnant. So you lied about being a doctor just to impress my sister and sleep with her. How pathetic. You're a low-paid salesman," I said. "Well, that's..." "What do you mean, low-paid? What about $1 million a month? We've already started looking at luxury apartments and even contacted a car dealer to get a car. I've already maxed out my credit card on designer bags and shoes," my sister interjected. "Why would you waste money like that? And why is Jessica even at this hospital? She's supposed to be working at a different hospital." "That's why I brought her here," my husband said, bewildered. "When I took time off for my father's funeral, the doctor from this hospital helped me out multiple times. Now she has a situation, so I'm returning the favor. I've been working hard even while you two were cheating on me," I explained. "Jessica, listen, this is the end of us. I'm fed up with you. Go ahead and divorce or remarry, but make sure to pay me alimony," I demanded. "Wait, Jessica. I was wrong. I'll change my ways this time. Let's forget about the divorce for now," my husband pleaded. "What are you saying? Remember when you cheated with that girl from your office? You promised me that if it happened again, you pay whatever amount of alimony I demanded," I reminded him, showing the written pledge I had taken a picture with my smartphone, complete with his signature and thumbprint. My husband let out a silent scream. "At least 5 million yen. No, considering it was right after my father's funeral, I could even add a bit more. I'll contact a good lawyer. You two can wait and tremble, I said firmly. Wait, does that mean I have to pay alimony too? Are you going to demand it from me? My sister asked, panicking. Of course, that's what it means to steal your sister's husband. Don't worry, I'll give you a grace period until the baby is born. That's my moral obligation as an obstetrician. But make sure you pay up after the baby is born. I'll have you give up all your designer bags and shoes, and I'll add the funeral offering for my father. You'll apologize on your knees in front of his grave, I declared. I glared at my sister and walked away to start the regular examination. As soon as I instructed her to get on the bed, my sister fled the examination room, perhaps afraid of me wearing rubber gloves. My husband, who remained, seemed to want to say something, but he meekly retreated under the cold stares of the nurses. Thinking that I wouldn't have to see his face anymore, I felt truly liberated. Another half a year later, it seems my sister had a baby safely at a different obstetrics and gynecology clinic. Regardless of what my sister had done, the newborn baby was innocent. Knowing it was a healthy baby girl, I felt relieved deep down. But as for my sister herself, it's a different story. I don't feel a shred of pity for her. As I declared after the baby was born, I sent my sister a letter demanding alimony. The total was 5.3 million yen. Of course, 300,000 yen was for the condolence money for my father's funeral. I planned to deliver it to my mother. As for my husband, no, my ex-husband, life seems to be quite tough with the alimony he owes me. His workplace, due to the rumors of his affair, had no choice but to let him resign. It seems difficult for him to get rehired as a full-time employee. I heard he's juggling temp jobs now. As for who spread the rumors of the affair at his former workplace, I think it's best left unsaid. Furthermore, through the grapevine, I heard he hasn't gotten over his womanizing ways. He seems to be injuring my sister by hitting on any woman close at hand. At this rate, they seem like a suitable couple, and I feel truly refreshed being able to break up with my ex-husband. Now I'm dedicating myself to my work as an obstetrician. Today, 2 mothers to be with big bellies are waiting for my help. I'm sorry, I've got an amazing fiancé now. Are you jealous? Envious? Her once cute face now appeared distorted before me, not just to me but to my sister and her husband as well. They had always looked down on my husband. My anger reached its peak, surpassing the limit of my patience. My name is Luna. I work at a printing company and I'm 27 years old. Although I work with printing, I'm not operating large machines. I work in the design department, crafting various flyers and catalogs while listening to customer requests. Recently, with the advancement of stylization, the number of prints has decreased, but the design work remains busy and rewarding. Thankfully, I have more customers requesting me specifically. The flyer for the recent Christmas event was a big hit. It was so cute. Such compliments truly make me happy. This job feels like a life purpose for me. I thought I would remain single, dedicating my life to work until one day my father was hospitalized for appendicitis. During a visit to see him, a young doctor named James approached me and asked, "Hello, are you here to visit someone?" It turns out he is my current boyfriend and recently became my fiancé. You never know when and where life will bring unexpected encounters. Despite being devoted to work, as soon as marriage was brought up, I found myself buying wedding magazines. I guess I'm also getting carried away, sitting in the living room flipping through a magazine while having tea. Then it happened, a hand suddenly reached out, snatching the magazine away. "Hey, wait a minute. What's this?" "A wedding magazine. Why are you looking at something like this?" "It has nothing to do with you, Mary," I said as my younger sister took the magazine from me. "You getting married? Seriously. Look in the mirror first, will you? You should know your place. You don't even have a boyfriend, let alone getting married." On the other hand, she continued, "I've never been without a boyfriend. Oh, speaking of which, my current boyfriend." Mary always had this habit of bragging about her boyfriend. Unlike me, with my plain face, my sister has always been cute and popular. People around her always indulged her, except for our parents and me. Everyone around her was always a yes man. As a result, my sister started thinking of herself as the center of the world. The arrogant sister I grew up with began looking down on me. "Stay away from me. Your face might drop off on me. No matter how much you study, what's that brain of yours? You won't catch a guy. Why don't you give up on pointless efforts?" Oh, I got asked that again. It's so tough being popular. I envy my sister, who doesn't get any attention at all. She would continue saying such things, even if our parents scolded her severely. It was already too late. Her personality remained unchanged, and the verbal abuse towards me never stopped. Growing up, my sister now refers to me as you. Tired of my sister bragging about her boyfriend, I sighed and mustered up the courage to speak. I do have a boyfriend. In fact, we're engaged. We're getting married soon, so I'm looking at wedding magazines. My sister's movements abruptly stopped at those words. After staring at me intently, she smirked with a sarcastic smile. Oh, really? So you managed to find a guy. What's so great about you anyway? He likes my energetic and cheerful personality. That's a lie. You're probably just being treated like a maid. I'll continue working, and he understands that I can't be a perfect housewife. As I said that, my sister exaggeratedly acted surprised. Ha! You're getting married and still planning to work? How quaint, marrying a poor man. Her words struck a nerve. She just couldn't stop looking down on me. Money is not an issue. He's a doctor, so there's no problem with income. I just want to continue working. As I retorted, my sister fell silent immediately. I sighed with relief and returned to my room. Oh, a doctor, I see, my sister muttered those words with a meaningful tone. When marriage is on the table, the first thing to do is to meet with our parents. James came to my house. After greeting my parents, the relaxed atmosphere instantly changed the moment my sister appeared. Oh, is that the person you're engaged to? Quite handsome, isn't he, Mary? Weren't you out? I interjected. Of course, when my sister's fiancé is coming, I had to cancel my plans. Unbeknownst to her, I was relieved that she wasn't there by chance. It was because I had a bad feeling about it. It had happened several times in the past. When I was still a student, my sister stole my boyfriend. After becoming a working adult, I didn't have a boyfriend, and my sister kept making one after another, so such a thing didn't occur again. Although I felt uneasy about my sister coming back, she had grown up as well. I wanted to believe that she wouldn't do something like stealing my fiancé. My sister was oddly close to my fiancé. I couldn't help but notice a blush on James's cheeks. My bad feeling. Can we pretend that engagement never happened? I've decided to break up with you and start dating Mary. My sister's words hit the mark perfectly. Never did I imagine that even as a working adult, my boyfriend would be stolen by my own sister. I'm sorry I took your fiancé, but it can't be helped, right? After all, I'm cuter and more charming, and James' pursuit was so intense. Oh, being cute is such a crime, my sister's words, far from an apology, dripped with condescension. Beside her, James, once my fiancé, laughed and said, seriously, who would have known that you had such a cute sister? If I had known, I wouldn't have gotten engaged to you. It's a good thing we're breaking up before getting married. The moment I saw that twisted smile on his face, any feelings I had for him vanished without a trace. All that remained was a sense of disgust. I'm glad I didn't marry someone like you, a man who easily moves on to another woman. Here, take Mary as a parting gift. You're just a sore loser. Seriously, you're not attractive at all. I'm not saying this out of spite, but I genuinely mean it. It seemed that the two of them, lost in their own delusions, didn't understand how I felt. It's a waste of time being involved with you two. Goodbye. You're just making excuses for losing. You're the waste of time here. I never want to see you again. Goodbye. They left, looking down on me until the very end. After that, due to my enraged parents, they were banned from seeing our family, so I never met them again. However, I heard through rumors that they got married, but I don't really care anymore. 3 years had passed since I parted ways with my sister and her husband, and I turned 30 while diligently working as ever. In the midst of it, there was one customer who took a liking to my work and became a repeat client. His name was William. As we talked during work, for some reason, he asked me out for a meal, and then he asked me out on a date. On one of our dates, he asked me to be in a relationship with him. Honestly, I was really happy. William seemed very sincere, and I believed he wouldn't repeat the same mistakes as my previous boyfriend. But deep down, my sister had become quite a trauma for me. Maybe, just maybe, somewhere it bothered me a little. So, I decided to be honest and told him about my sister, about my former fiancé. I even showed him a picture of my sister and looked at his reaction. But even after seeing her photo, his expression didn't change at all. He casually glanced away from the photo and gave me a gentle smile. I know it might sound strange to say this, but I used to be quite popular. I've met many women who were cuter and more beautiful than your sister. But for some reason, none of them sparked my interest. I used to think that maybe I would remain single and unmarried for the rest of my life, but that wasn't the case. What do you mean? I asked, curious. I believe that due to my line of work, I have an eye for people. No matter how beautiful someone is or how well dressed they are, they can't match their inner beauty. I realized that when I met you, Luna. What do you mean? I stammered. I thought you were shining brightly, William said sincerely. When we talk about work, you're vibrant and beautiful. I thought you were wonderful, not just during work, but when we're having a meal or going on a date. You always smile and enjoy our time together. I could tell that you genuinely enjoy life, William confessed earnestly. And I thought you were dazzlingly beautiful. What? What? Wait, this is so embarrassing, I stuttered in my flustered state. But William continued, undeterred. Luna, you're beautiful, more beautiful and charming than anyone else. I've never met a more wonderful woman than you. Please consider being in a relationship with me with marriage as a possibility. I truly mean it from the bottom of my heart. Stop, it's too embarrassing. I can't take it anymore. I blushed and tried to stop him. But William's words didn't cease. In the end, even after agreeing to date, he continued showering me with such heartfelt words for a while. So embarrassing, I thought to myself. 1 year later, William and I got married, becoming a happily married couple. Our newlywed life was going well, and I felt like we became even closer than before we got married. We shared household chores whenever we could. Since my husband had been living alone for a long time, he might be better at housework than me. His homemade meals when I was tired were incredibly delicious. On our days off, we often went out together. One day, on a day off when he said he wanted to look at furniture, something unexpected happened. It was the reunion with the devil that felt like a nightmare. Oh, well, I thought as I saw a plain-looking woman. It's you. I heard a voice from behind as I was looking at the bedding section. I didn't need to see her face to know who it was. Even though 4 years had passed since we last met, there was no way I could forget her. Mary, my sister, stood there, and beside her was my former fiancé, James. My sister's features seemed sharper than before. Was it due to age, or had her personality simply come to the forefront? Standing beside her, James wore a smirk, though it seemed he had lost weight. Meeting you here, huh? What are you doing? My sister asked, her tone dripping with condescension. Nothing special. I just came to look at furniture, I replied evenly. This place has a lot of imported goods and is expensive, you know. It's not a place for someone like you. I'm tired of your condescending attitude, James chimed in, stating beside her. Exactly. If someone like you keeps coming and going, it will lower the store's value. We might be mistaken for being poor too. Just go home already. Their rude remarks irritated me, but engaging with them would be a waste of time. I maintained my silence. However, it seemed my attitude didn't sit well with them as my sister and her husband's voices grew louder. I hate it. Our precious high-end store is ruined. Why would such poor people come here? They can't afford anything anyway. That's right. Poor people, go home, they continued loudly. Other customers and store employees glanced at us, wondering what was going on. Fed up, I took my husband's hand and tried to leave. But he didn't move. Finally noticing my husband's presence, my sister and her husband looked at him. Oh, what are you to her? My sister asked, her eyes widening. Luna's husband. Ha, can you marry this plain girl? Seriously, you're brave, James scoffed. Did you need a housemate or something? That's hilarious. I also do housework. It's only natural since we both work. I'm living comfortably as a full-time housewife. More than half of my week is spent eating out, and I rely on housekeeping services, I explained calmly. Sorry for being part of the winning team, my sister retorted with a sarcastic tone, stretching her words, which only fueled my frustration. She grinned at me. Sorry I stole your wonderful fiancé. Thanks to that, you'll have a poor life even after marriage, right? And to top it off, you're marrying such a plain guy. You two are a perfect match, both plain and unremarkable. Aren't you envious of my happiness? Jealous, aren't you? Haha, marrying a man who can't support his wife is just like you. You'll struggle for the rest of your life, losers. I had reached my limit. I could bear it when they spoke ill of me, but to speak ill of my husband as well? There was no way I could tolerate it. Listen, that's enough. I finally spoke up. Luna, it's fine. My husband stepped forward in front of me. Nice to meet you. I'm William, the one who married your sister. What a lame name, my sister sneered. Well, I understand, William replied calmly, handing his business card to James. As James took the offered card, my husband glanced at my sister-in-law. You say really mean things to Luna, don't you? Because they're true. I'm just abiding by the law that says I can call an ugly woman ugly. That's my law, my sister fired back. Such a law doesn't exist. And for me, you're much uglier than you think, William retorted calmly but firmly. Let's say it's the ugliness of your character. You seem to have confidence in your appearance, but you don't realize that your twisted personality, which can only look down on others, is reflected on the outside. While his tone remained polite, his words were quite harsh. My sister's face quickly turned bright red. Don't mess with me. How am I ugly? Everything about you is. In the first place, beautiful people don't envy their sisters and steal their fiancés, William countered. What? When did I envy my sister? My sister protested. People aspire to get close to and surpass their admired figures. Isn't Luna such a figure for you? That's ridiculous, William concluded firmly. I was surprised, not just by my husband's words, but also by my sister's reaction. I had never considered it that way before. My sister had always looked down on me, but seeing her unsettled, I started to wonder if there was a possibility. If it's someone who doesn't matter, someone you don't care about, you can just ignore them. Even if Luna brings any kind of partner, you shouldn't have thought of taking them away. After all, they are not someone you found yourself. Taking someone else's position stems from jealousy towards something you can't obtain, no matter how hard you try, my husband calmly stated. I'm saying I'm not jealous, my sister retorted defensively. By taking something away, you want to have that confidence that you are superior to the other person, right? In other words, you lack confidence. Confident people can live proudly without doing such things. That's not true. My sister desperately refuted, but her voice gradually lost strength. Breaking the momentary silence, James suddenly shouted loudly with a pale face, "This name." She alternated between looking at the business card and her husband's face, then shook her shoulders. What is it now? I asked. This name. I felt like I recognized it, so I looked it up. And, William Brown. So what? She trailed off, her expression turning uncertain. Where I work, huh? Hospital. If I remember correctly, it's Brown Medical Corporation. A chairman and director, Dr. Brown. He's their son. Huh? What? Mary's voice faltered. It's a common surname, so it must be someone else, right? James interjected nervously. I've seen him come to the hospital a few times, together with the chairman. I saw them from a distance, so I didn't remember it well. But when I thought I had seen him somewhere, he's supposed to be a doctor, right? The company name on that business card. It doesn't mean that a doctor's son has to become a doctor. And this company, it's a super famous pharmaceutical company. I think the previous generation retired, and the grandson took over, I speculated. Hello, I'm that grandson, a voice interrupted. Mary and James panicked, and my husband bowed politely. What? What did you say? Mary gasped. James faltered, his face pale. My husband calmly explained, I met Luna through the work I was doing until I took over my grandfather's job. I've heard about you, but it's beyond imagination how cruel you are. I interjected, my voice steady. James stammered, shifting uncomfortably. My husband shifted his gaze from my speechless sister to James. A job of helping people requires empathy, but instead of showing empathy, you look down on and ridicule others. Who would want to be treated by a doctor like that? Oh, well, it's just a misunderstanding, James attempted to explain, his face growing even paler. However, in the next moment, my husband's eyes widened with anger. No need for excuses. I'll let my father know about you. Just wait for the consequences. James exclaimed, desperation evident in his voice, while my sister remained stunned. Ignoring their pleas, we turned our backs and left. I knew deep down that we would probably never see them again. With that thought in my heart, I continued walking, refusing to look back. After that incident, James didn't get fired, but he faced a significant pay cut and was removed from responsible tasks. His arrogant attitude towards others and his cold demeanor with patients led to him receiving cold stares from everyone around him. Eventually, unable to handle the situation, he quit his job, leaving under a cloud of rumors within the hospital community, which made it difficult for him to find new employment. He struggled with unemployment in the aftermath. As for my sister, it was revealed that she had always been reckless with money. Despite her high salary, her life became increasingly challenging. This stress visibly affected James, who began to look emaciated rather than just thin. In response to his pay cut, my sister quickly decided to divorce him, believing she could easily find another man. However, things didn't go as planned. When we met again, my sister's once cute face had hardened, revealing her true character. Her prime time for romantic relationships came to an abrupt end. Nobody wanted to be with her. Our parents later informed me that she had complained, "I'm so cute, so why won't anyone spoil me?" She became fixated on surpassing me, driven by some internal need to prove herself. My husband speculated that deep down, my sister actually admired me, though her actions were unforgivable. Eventually, she faced the consequences of her own choices, even being rejected by our parents when she sought their help. She disappeared into the nightlife, and we never heard of her again. Free from the curse of my sister and her husband, I enjoyed peaceful days, a calm married life, and a fulfilling job that ignited my passion every day. Soon, we would become a family of 3. As I gazed at the computer monitor, I gently rubbed my growing belly, filled with anticipation for the future. My name is Ava, and with the slightest change in climate, my rural home becomes infested with insects every year. I put my heart and soul into pest control. At 34 years old, I've transformed from a housewife into nothing less than a hunter. Once upon a time, bugs used to scare me. I used to say such things without any embarrassment. But once I passed 30, I started facing them with a poker face. Indeed, I've become quite tough. Today, I'd like to share a story about how I dealt with my younger sister who fell in love with my husband. This happened years ago, back when I was in my 20s. A junior high school reunion was held for the first time in many years, where I reconnected with my childhood friend Josh, who used to live in my neighborhood during elementary school. My sister Emily, 2 years younger than me, and I used to play with Josh a lot. But as typical boy sentiments grew stronger, playing with girls became embarrassing for him. Josh distanced himself from us when his family moved away in junior high, and we lost touch. At the reunion, I was nervous when reconnecting with Josh. But adulthood brought its strong ally, alcohol. Josh, loosened by its power, and I, emboldened by the same, had a lively conversation that was hard to believe after such a long time apart. We continued to party together, and by the end of the night, Josh confessed, "I used to like you when we were kids, and it seems like I can still like you as an adult." With this light-hearted exchange, our relationship began. Later, when sober, Josh joked, "Man, I said too much. Am I embarrassing? Who the hell do I think I am?" I couldn't help but laugh at his embarrassment. Everything fell into place, and we decided to get married. We visited each other's homes and completed the formalities for cohabitation and marriage planned for 6 months later. However, a problem arose at my house when Josh came to meet my family over a meal. As my sister returned home from work with a deflated voice, her surprise at seeing Josh turned quickly into a happy expression. "Wow, Josh, why are you here?" Embarrassed, Josh glanced at me and then explained, "Actually, we've been dating for about half a year now, and we've decided to get married. I came here today to inform our parents." I thought I should explain to my family, so I told my sister the circumstances. Her face turned visibly grim. "I see. I'm tired, so I'm going to bed. Good night," she said abruptly, retreating to her room and slamming the door shut. Wow, that was unpleasant," I said to Josh, worried that I had made him uncomfortable. But he reassured me with a smile. "I'm not bothered by it." Wanting to clear things up for my sister's sake, I added, "She's not usually like that. Maybe she's just not happy about us living together." Even our parents didn't show any problems, so I couldn't understand my sister's strong reaction. Still puzzled, I debated whether to ask her directly, but as I headed to the bath, I ran into her in the hallway. I started, unsure how to begin, as she fixed me with a devilish glare. "I can't believe you're marrying Josh. I've always loved him too. I'll never forgive you for this." With the rage of a demon, she stumped away, leaving me staring at her unexpected confession. Seriously, she was in love with Josh. I muttered to myself, feeling like the plot was straight out of a daytime drama, holding my head in disbelief. After a night of restless tossing and turning, I finally found clarity. Is it really a problem if my sister loves my fiancé? After all, our marriage is already decided. If Josh had loved my sister, it would have been a different story. But that's not the case. More importantly, if she's felt this way since childhood, she should have told him sooner. Realizing it was my sister's failure to express her feelings that caused this turmoil, I decided it was absurd for her to blame me. Though I could sense her growing hostility towards me as her older sister, I chose to let it slide. Despite the gravity of the situation, I opted for an optimistic view and decided to let it go. However, I was torn about whether to tell Josh. On one hand, revealing my sister's feelings might complicate things for Josh, I reasoned. But if I don't tell him, he'll sense the tension whenever he visits without understanding why. Considering Josh's involvement, I ultimately decided honesty was the best policy. I have to tell him, I resolved. When I finally did, Josh listened attentively and reassured me, "Tell me if anything happens. I'll handle it." "True, it's a sister issue," I acknowledged, relieved by Josh's understanding. "If she gets too aggressive, maybe he'll use you as a shield," I joked nervously. "Don't joke like that," Josh chuckled, trying to lighten the mood. With our decision made, neither of us wavered in our commitment to marry. Convincing my sister was not our aim. We simply accepted the situation. From then on, as expected, my sister's animosity towards me only grew. On one occasion, after she used the bathroom before me, she left it messy without cleaning up. "This isn't a big deal. It's just a shower," I sighed, trying to brush it off. I could even afford to joke about how cute my little sister was for pulling such a modest, shabby prank. However, having my makeup and wallet hidden before heading to work was a real blow. "I don't have time for a treasure hunt in the morning," I muttered, desperately searching for them. Trembling at the thought of being late, I barely made it to work on time twice in 1 week. "You're not slacking off with your wedding coming up, are you?" My boss eyed me coldly, adding to my frustration. "I won't forgive her." No, I'm the big sister. I should forgive her. But I won't. No, I muttered to myself, conflicted. Initially, my parents were unaware of my sister's harassment, but after she started hiding my valuables, they began to notice something was off. "Why are you doing such childish things?" My mother scolded my sister, though my sister seemed to revel in annoying me. The real issue, however, was my father. Ever since my sister was born and my mother's health declined, he had cared for her as if she were still a newborn. He doted on her more than me, or rather, he was biased towards her. His experience in parenting had made him feel like a mother, and I couldn't fault him for that. I, too, loved my sister, especially considering the tough times we grew up in together. Reflecting on our different treatment, I recall the childhood incident when I had wanted to go to an amusement park, but she had insisted on the aquarium. My father, always siding with her, promptly decided on the aquarium. I remembered my mother, always checking if I was okay with his decisions, asking, "Are you sure it's okay not to go to the amusement park?" Honestly, I don't harbor any bitter memories of my father's favoritism towards my sister, but if my mother hadn't balanced things out, I might have felt inferior. Plus, at the time, even my friends remarked about how my sister received more affection. I didn't dwell on it. I simply accepted that there was a bias in love everywhere. Maybe it's just my inherently optimistic personality. I always look for reasons not to feel down. But this time, my father clearly took my sister's side. Apparently, she accused Josh of stealing her boyfriend, which in my father's eyes painted Josh as the villain. I understood his protective stance, imagining the plight of the sister who was left behind while her elder sister was about to get married. In response to my father's thoughts, my mother intervened, saying, "I don't see Josh as the kind of person who would do such a thing," voicing her skepticism. "No, that's not true. Listen to my opinion," I countered, hoping they would consider both sides fairly. My mother, known for not taking our words at face value and judging us fairly, tried to mediate. But my father's protective instincts overruled reason. "I can't bear to see my poor sister dumped, and even my elder daughter being played with," he insisted adamantly. "I won't allow this man to take advantage of my beloved daughters. Wake up." It felt like I was being pushed into a corner, unable to make my voice heard amidst my father's firm convictions. Though he loved us deeply, his favoritism caused a strain this time. The growing opposition to my marriage troubled me deeply. So, I made a decision. I would leave home earlier than planned and live with Josh. Simply put, if the issue stemmed from my sister, distancing myself seemed the best solution. If I'm not at home, I won't be harassed. Problem solved, I reasoned, finding peace in the decision. And indeed, our life together passed peacefully after that. As days went by, my mother softened her stance, acknowledging, "I think your side of the story is probably right. You're an adult now. Do as you like, live freely. Surprisingly, my father remained silent, though dissatisfied. Deep down, he probably thought that even if Josh and I broke up, I would be pitiful, and he couldn't fathom Josh turning to my sister. I suppose my father thought it was the best solution. I felt sorry for Josh, unfairly painted as a villain, but with no word from my troublesome sister, I thought everything had settled. Then came the wedding day. As expected, my sister didn't attend, and my father took the opportunity to suggest, "It's not too late to reconsider your decision to marry. Marriage comes with all sorts of challenges, so be prepared." My mother, always mild-mannered, added, "Needless to say, really?" In the background, my father looked pale. Not everyone might have blessed us from the bottom of their hearts, but under our parents' watchful eyes, we exchanged vows. The next day, the intercom of our home chimed loudly. "What's going on?" Josh and I jumped up, rushing to the monitor. To our surprise, my family was visiting us: Dad, Mom, and even Emily. "What's going on?" I asked, bewildered, as my younger sister glared at me with sharp eyes. I kept quiet, but she continued, "I'm pregnant with Josh's child. You have to take responsibility." "What does this mean?" I blurted out in shock. "Fortunately, we don't have a child yet. You can't just force us to break up and marry Josh." Ignoring my protests, she persisted, "You should give Josh to her." Confused, my mother intervened, asking, "What's going on?" Josh, still half asleep, stumbled to the front door behind me. What? My child?" He shook his head vehemently. "No, it's not like that. We didn't do anything like that." His denial was almost comically emphatic. "I know. You should stop this panic. It's suspicious," I added, trying to hold back laughter. "How many months pregnant are you?" My sister pressed on, undeterred. 2 months. "If Josh doesn't take responsibility, this child will be fatherless." "Isn't that pitiful, Mom?" Startled by my sister's sudden revelation, my mother looked between us, clearly uncertain of how to respond. Josh and I exchanged amused looks, struggling to contain our laughter. "Ha ha ha," I chuckled nervously, trying to explain our laughter to our confused parents who couldn't grasp the reason behind it. "What are you laughing at?" my sister Emily asked, flustered by our sudden outburst. "Well, 2 months ago," I started, tears welling up from laughing too hard. "We had fun last time, didn't we?" Josh interjected, catching my sister off guard with his unexpected question. My parents remained perplexed, their expressions filled with disapproval as they didn't understand Josh's playful intentions. I was probably the only one who caught on to his subtle plan. "By the way, Emily, how many abs do I have?" Josh continued, throwing another curveball. "Ha!" Emily looked blank, clearly puzzled. I was on the verge of bursting into laughter again. "Josh, are you serious? Talking about your abs like you've lost them," I managed to say between giggles. "What are you talking about, Josh?" Emily asked, clearly bewildered. "The correct answer is 0. I was about to confirm that Josh was just teasing when he solemnly confessed, "I actually have no abs." Even my mom couldn't help but chuckle at his antics. It seemed like a contest to see who could make the other laugh the most. "Here's question 2. Have you seen my moles? How many do I have in total?" Josh continued, his strange questions leaving my sister at a loss for words. "Hey, wait, what?" Emily stammered, unsure how to respond. Josh persisted with his playful interrogation, leaving my sister flustered. "Well, that's to be expected," I thought, seeing Josh's mischievous grin and my sister's confused expression. It was like a game to him, delighting in teasing her and watching her struggle to answer. Despite knowing she could end it by denying everything, Josh seemed to enjoy keeping her on her toes. In fact, even my mother began to suspect something was amiss. "Isn't there something odd about their relationship?" she murmured quietly, observing the dynamic between my sister and Josh. Of course, I thought, realizing that such banter wouldn't be possible if they were genuinely intimate. Moreover, it would be too embarrassing in front of our parents. The very act of having such a light-hearted conversation was proof that nothing had actually happened between them. Josh was simply enjoying his own way of playfully teasing Emily like a child with a new toy. It was both amusing and slightly unsettling. What a mischievous man he could be. I watched closely, wondering how my sister would react to Josh's playful banter. She pondered the second question, visibly tense. On like 10, she finally answered, nervously guessing, Buzz, sorry, the correct answer is I don't even know, Josh proclaimed dramatically. Even my father couldn't contain his laughter, doubling over in amusement. At the same time, to cover his amusement, he feigned frustration. Love is enough, Josh. Don't you dare joke around after causing my daughter such distress. My father interjected sternly, preparing to scold Josh. Wait, listen, I interjected, trying to diffuse the tension. You said the pregnancy was 2 months along, right? Considering the conception period, there's no way the child could be Josh's. What do you mean? My mother asked, intrigued by my point. Can I say it? I glanced at Josh, who reluctantly nodded with a deeply embarrassed expression. Wait, hold on. Can I say it? Can you? Josh stammered nervously. Oh yeah, I'll do it, I replied, despite the awkwardness. Josh puffed out his chest bravely. Mom and Dad, the truth is, during that time, I was stung by a bee in a very sensitive area. At this revelation, everyone, even my sister, burst out laughing uncontrollably. That's enough of the lies, Josh. There's no way you were stung there, my father exclaimed, torn between anger and amusement, while my mother laughed uproariously, clapping her hands. No, well, it's embarrassing, but it's true, Josh insisted, his face and ears turning bright red rapidly. It was hot, so I thought I'd cool off. Taking advantage of the fact that I couldn't be seen from outside, I opened the window and was relaxing in the nude when a bee flew in and stung me. I struggled to contain my laughter, trying to respect Josh's embarrassment in front of my family, but it was too hilarious not to join in. There's no way a man could be that embarrassing, my father chuckled, shaking his head. Well, that embarrassingly embarrassing man is right here, Josh retorted loudly, trying to defend himself. That still doesn't prove that the child in my belly isn't from Josh's seed, my sister interjected, regaining her stance and joining the conversation with renewed vigor. Emily, think about it, I reasoned. Josh got stung in a very important place. Dad, imagine if that happened to you as a man. You'd understand the pain of having such a vital area harmed. My sister fell silent, considering my serious tone. Meanwhile, my father, who seemed to have visualized the situation based on Josh's explanation, quietly clutched his groin and looked down thoughtfully. Though he tried to maintain a stern face, it was clear he was starting to believe Josh's unlikely tale. It's a really delicate area for men, so it was tough. I even thought about calling an ambulance, Josh concluded, his embarrassment evident despite his attempt at humor. I couldn't help but respond to Josh's story with embarrassment. I had a fever, it was tough, and doing the deed in that state would be way too kinky. You can even check with the hospital that took care of me if you want, Josh explained in an almost inaudible voice. To my surprise, my mother burst into laughter. Josh, didn't you used to have a habit of taking off your swimsuit when you played in a kiddie pool? She teased, approaching him with playful curiosity. Why don't you show me where you were stung? Josh tried to dodge my mother's playful inquiry, covering not his private area, but his irrelevant chest. From what I saw, my mother seemed to fully trust him now, which gave me a sense of relief, although Josh didn't seem to share the same feeling. Well, I sympathize as a man. I don't think anyone would lie about such an embarrassing thing. There's no need to check with the hospital, my father chimed in, his expression unusually kind towards Josh, as if respecting his dignity. Ironically, it seemed that understanding came quicker among men in this situation. I wondered if this was what they called a blessing in disguise. Amidst this light-hearted banter, I turned to my sister, who stood in a daze. Even if you lie like this, it won't lead to Josh and me getting divorced. I think you're just making yourself more miserable, I said calmly. You may not believe me, but I really want you to be happy. After all, you're my only sister. My sister's eyes widened in anger. Shut up, shut up, shut up. I don't like Josh anymore. If he's going to take your side, she snapped, emotional and reaching out to grab me. I don't care if you don't like me. I love Ava, and that's all that matters, Josh firmly asserted, brushing off my sister's hand. I consider Emily a precious childhood friend and now my sister-in-law. I never have and never will see her as anything more. If you keep repeating these lies, I'll defend Ava with all my strength. I couldn't help but feel moved by his words. He had come a long way from the man who was embarrassed by a bee sting, muttering about the world being his enemy. Watching this unfold, my father intervened. "Emily, if you're really pregnant, show us your medical records or something," he requested, his tone serious. With that, my parents made it clear they had believed Emily's pregnancy claims without any basis. I appreciated their unquestioning trust in their children, though this time it seemed to have backfired. "If you've lied, you owe both of them an apology," my mother added sternly. My sister, visibly shaken and biting her lip, turned away with tears in her eyes. My father moved to follow her, but my mother stopped him. "Let her go and cool off," she advised. 2 weeks passed. My sister continued to insist she was pregnant, but my mother finally persuaded her to visit a gynecologist. The diagnosis: no signs of pregnancy and perfectly good health. "We're sorry for doubting you and causing you so much trouble," my parents apologized sincerely. "We should have trusted Josh, whom we've known for so long. Please take care of Ava and forgive us for making this difficult for you both." They bowed their heads apologetically. To be honest, I could have blamed my parents. I haven't discussed the strained relationship with my sister with my parents. They have always believed in their daughters without question, a quality that society might view in various ways, but for me it has been a source of immense reassurance. Despite occasional favoritism towards my sister, especially from my father, I have come to forgive them for the mistakes they made. They raised me well, and without them, I wouldn't have met Josh or lived such a happy life. When my sister's lie about being pregnant was exposed, she reacted angrily, declaring, "I don't need this family anymore," and stormed out of the house. Normally, my father would have gone after her, but this time he suggested it might be better for Emily to take some time away, a cooling-off period. My mother agreed, adding firmly, "If she can't come back and sincerely apologize, we won't let her back into this house." Deep down, I doubted my sister would ever apologize sincerely. It felt like a definitive break between us. 7 years passed. My sister did return once, bowing her head to her parents and asking to come back. Initially noble in her return, by the end of the year she had caused a significant incident while heavily intoxicated. One tumultuous New Year's Eve, she sneaked into Josh's bed, mistaking it for mine, and startled him awake. Both of us, along with our parents, were shocked by the disturbance. "Don't approach him," I warned her angrily. Josh, startled, exclaimed loudly enough to wake the neighbors. "Oh!" My parents, usually composed, jumped up in surprise. It was a scene that revealed the extent of my sister's issues. In her drunken state, she blurted out, "I'm tired of seeing you two always together. It's okay for him to spend time with me." I was furious and demanded she get her act together. Even my parents, usually gentle, expressed unprecedented anger. My father, who had once adored my sister, was visibly disgusted. "I didn't raise a child who would attack a man in his sleep," he declared sternly. "I'll never forget this." Despite my sister's tearful apologies once she sobered up, my father remained resolute. "Your actions when drunk reveal your true feelings. I can't trust anything you say anymore." With that, my parents disowned her. It was a painful but necessary decision. Meanwhile, I discovered I was pregnant for the first time shortly before this turbulent New Year's Eve. Since then, I've given birth to 3 children, including twins, making me a mother of 4 by the age of 34. Life with 4 children is chaotic, walls scribbled with crayons, daily struggles with clothes and toothbrushing, but seeing their sleeping faces each night makes it all worthwhile. My parents adore their grandchildren, often visiting to help with childcare. Josh, too, is deeply involved, despite the challenges. He handles the chaos with a smile, even as he worries about his thinning hair from constant hair pulling during piggyback rides. I find it amusing and endearing to see Josh grappling with hair loss. With his promotion and improved salary, he could afford treatments, but I secretly enjoy watching him embrace fatherhood in all its messy glory. Our home is far from quiet and calm. It's lively and noisy, but I couldn't be happier.